Today we're installing a Tunze Osmolator 3155 on my Red Sea Reefer 250. First thing I've done is I have removed the media, the CO2 absorbing media from this side, moved the skimmer back and to the right just to gain access to the rear chamber. The Reefer 250 V3 sump is a bit of a pain to get to if you've got a Clarity installed, and it is an absolute nightmare for access back here because the third chamber is right at the back, and that is where the auto top off will be located. Second thing I've done is I've removed the old auto top off from the system. So I've removed all the wires, I've removed the plumbing, and that's all gone. Right, I've got everything out of the box. It's all laid out on the floor. This is the black tubing. That is that's the water line to take it from the reservoir into the tank. We have got the pump. Sorry about all the noise. We've got the pump that goes in the reservoir. You'll see it's actually not connected to the power. You've got to do that manually. When I first opened the box, I was a bit daunted by all this, but to be honest, looking at it, you've just got these tiny little connectors. So it's really simple to fit these. We have got the float sensor. When the float sensor is activated, that is one of the fail-safes for this this little system. So if that's activated, it actually shut off the auto top off because it knows that that is overfilling the tank. We have got the optical sensor. That sits at the water line. So you see your water line about here, I think. And then when it falls below, it fills up, tops up your tank, hits that line again, and then that knows when to shut it off. If this fails and this sensor, this float sensor, is activated, that's when it shuts itself off. We have got the bracket that goes onto the sump. We have got on the end of this line here, we've got the mount that goes onto the side of the sump, although I'm not really sure why they've made it like that because I want it sitting like that rather than like that. So I'm probably just going to use the old mount that I've got on the tank already. We're going to start off by setting up this all the sensors that we've got. So this is for the float valve sensor. So this automatically switches off the auto top off if this sensor is activated. So it's basically a fail safe so it doesn't top your tank off or overfill your tank. So it sits like this normally. Your optical sensor, actually we'll put the optical sensor in now. It's got a little groove in there, and I'm assuming that the groove slides through and then twists. Alright, so then we'll put this wire around here. This should be correct. So my sensor, this is the optical sensor to determine whether it's on or off. So if the water line falls below this sensor level, it will start topping the tank up. It will hit the bottom of the sensor, and then if it overfills, this float valve will float to the top. It will activate the shut off, and that is your fail safe there. So that was pretty darn simple. Apologies if the footage is a bit ropey and a bit shaky. Access to this chamber is pretty limited, so you're just going to have to bear with me. So in this chamber here, we have got the two sensors, and on the right side of the third chamber, we have got where the ATO line comes in. So that's where the water fills this little reservoir here. Little control box we have mounted up here. My initial thoughts, I was going to mount it here, mainly if it fell, it would have no room to fit down here and actually drop into the sump. But I've decided up here is probably best, more aesthetically pleasing, and to be honest, I didn't have enough of the power cord to put it here. If I had the control box here, the power cord was wrapped around here, and there was not enough power cord to go through that hole and then back into the power. Unfortunately, I can't plug it in there because there's not enough room at the top for the big old plug that it comes with, so this is my only option. It's pretty safe up here. I've cable tied the wires to this pipe, so if it does fall, it's only going to fall into this little area here. It's not going to drop all the way down into the chamber, and that was a big concern of mine. So that's that side of it. The water fill tubing comes in down at the right side of that pipe there. That is, so here's my auto top off reservoir. We've got the pump. You can see the pump in there. There's the pump. This holds about 30 litres. We've got the pump in there, and it comes up through a little hole at the top. Across here, we've got the ATO line, is that top line there, and at the bottom, this white one here is the power cable. So the ATO fill line comes across here, loops around the back here. I've drilled a hole in at the side of my cabinet. This is not advisable. Do not drill holes in the side of your cabinet. I've done it, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that. So that then comes through here, and that's where it fills in. The power cord comes from the top of the pump, comes across. It is the bottom one of these, and I'll see if I can pull it out. Here are the two connectors. I was a bit skeptical about these because I read online that it doesn't matter which of the power connectors goes in which side of these connectors. I went with the standard UK method, which is brown is live, blue is neutral. So we've gone for the brown on the right side with the little indicators saying it's a live line, and then the neutral on the left with no markings on the wire. So that's how I've done it. I'm not sure if that is correct, but I did read online that it actually doesn't matter which one you put in there. So yeah, not sure about that. One thing that is slightly annoying about this is the amount of power cord that you get. So I wasn't able to plug the ATO in on there. One, because it's full, and two, because of the size of the plug. So I've had to plug it in back here. I would have liked it to have been long enough to be cable managed within these cables here, then run across up through that gap and then be plugged in. But unfortunately, the power cord is so short that I've had to run it diagonally across up to this gap here, then across this pipe at the back of this pipe, which I've cable tied it onto, and then it goes into the control box. Mildly annoying, and there's no way of extending that cable, but yeah, it's just one of those things. Okay, so now it's all installed, I thought I might as well give you a few first impressions of this Tunze ATO. Initial impressions are, build quality seems good, really good. When I initially set this up, the tank needed topping up, put all the sensors in place, turned it on, and the pump started running. The ATO pump started running, which is fine because the water line was below the optical sensor. As soon as it hit the bottom of the optical sensor, it should have turned off, should have turned the pump off and stopped filling the tank, but it didn't. It kept filling the tank up until it hit or activated the float switch alarm. And it wasn't until that point that it actually turned off. That was a little bit weird, and it's actually not done it since. I kept my eye on it for a few hours until it needed topping up again, and then when it needed topping up again, the water line fell below the optical sensor, topped the tank up, and then as soon as it hit the bottom of the sensor, it did switch off. So that was a little bit odd, and I am going to keep my eye on this. Second thing to note is, if you're going to get this pump, this ATO, the pump is a lot louder than I'm used to. The D&D auto top off that I had on this tank before was absolutely silent, and this pump, I know when it's topping the tank up because I can hear that pump running. So that's a little bit of a niggle. It might get a little bit annoying over time. I mean, if this setup was in my bedroom, then it would be annoying because I'd hear that every time it goes off, which is about every hour or probably every 2 hours. But as it is at the moment, it's in my living room. I mean, it's not that loud that it's annoying, but I just know that it's running. That's the only two things that I've run into or noticed on this ATO. Other than that, it seems great. Build quality is great. It was nice and easy to set up. So yeah, I really can't complain. That'll pretty much wrap it up for this week's video. If you've enjoyed the content, please do like, please do subscribe, and I shall catch you next week, guys.